Hello guys, welcome to another series I have started for you. This series is about chess tips for the beginning and intermediate player. This series will consist of 10 videos and I'll be looking at 10 tips per video. Hopefully you enjoy the series and please remember to subscribe below if you like the series and to support my channel and help my channel reach 100 subscribers. So the first tip we'll be looking at is Rapley. Is a very simple tip: rapidly develop all pieces. The main goal at opening is to develop pieces and reach castling as quick as possible. Opening is only complete when one or both players have their rooks connected. And you don't always need to have your rooks connected, but this is somewhat like a standpoint. If you have your rooks connected, it's like you're going to have a good game. You can even have your queen still on d1 and you still have a very strong position. And of course, the player who finishes their development first gains the initiative. The second tip is to develop knights before bishops. While bishops can control several squares, as you see in this position, the bishops already are pretty menacing. If there are no pawns obstructing the way, the bishops can be pretty powerful. But knights only dominate only their neighbor squares and take longer to reach their opponent's fields. And you might be wondering why we develop your bishops first, and that's because the knights take longer to really reach their opponent's field. And when you get your knights out to the center first, where they control a lot of area, now this knight is in a very good position, and even though it can be kicked back from a move like e5, you can still just take it to f5 and have a good position with your knight. And then bishops can come to any square they want anytime, as in, like, let's say this knight just wanted to get to he wanted to get to d4 from his starting position. He'd have to come to f3 first, then come to d4. But if this bishop wanted to get to c4, this bishop can just come in a straight line, which gives bishops which is why we want to get our knights out first, to get them to control their squares for the bishops, and once we get our bishops out, we'll have a great game. And our third rule, again, is a simple rule: don't move the same piece twice during the opening. And like as we see here, this knight has been moved twice, and now this knight, we don't really know what it's doing. We have a good position. We can get our knight out, open up the diagonal for our bishop, or we could just kick around his knight and send him back to c6, which costs him even more time. And this can be used as like this move like a3 can be very helpful to us, because after something like knight c6, we do stop any bishop or knight coming to this b4 square ever again. So moving the same piece twice only helps your opponent speed up his or her development. So I recommend don't move the same piece twice unless you have to. The third our fourth rule today is our don't make unnecessary pawn moves during the opening. Right now, this bishop or this knight doesn't have any chance of getting to g4. There's no need to make this h3 move that this player played. And generally, moving pawns is only suitable when players aim to open diagonals or files for their bishops and rooks. And because knights don't really need diagonals, or if they only need pawns if they need to cover squares, like how we do their starting move. But this h3 move doesn't really do anything. Yes, it just blocks e4, but like I said, no pieces are threatening to come to that square, and your queen is already guarding that square. And you should restrict pawn moves during the opening, because you want to spend that time getting your other pieces out, and it will help your game improve. Our fifth rule is don't check if not necessary, and I've seen a lot of beginning players do this. A check can be easily defended by opponent isn't unnecessary. Like this queen e check, I've seen many players just drop this in. Yes, it checks the king. In 3 checks, this would be helpful, but the thing is, you can simply block it with a move like with a move like bishop e6 or bishop e7 or knight e5 or even queen e7, which just pins the queen and you lose time. And most of the checks during opening can be easily defended by moves that favor development. And another rule is don't open the position if you're behind in development. And if you look at this position here, opening the position isn't really a good move, because now the rook is aimed at the king, this knight is pinned, and you're preparing ideas like queen d3 or bishop d3 or knight d2, which attacks the knight multiple times and makes it a target in the center of the board. If you keep the position closed, you'll have a much better chance of getting your pieces to safer squares and developing the rest of your pieces to good squares and having a great game. Our seventh tip of the day is place the queen behind the line of friendly pawns. When the queen is on an open file, it is extremely vulnerable to the opponent's attacks. Of course, it's the second most valuable piece after the king. Therefore, it's convenient to place it behind a pawn, preferably on the second rank, so that the first one is free for the rook. So, as we see here, we've placed it on c2. Now we have a diagonal at the king. We could even prepare something like bishop d3, take on f6, and take the pawn there. And there are many ideas, and this queen on c2 can be very powerful. But if you place it on a open file, let's say these pawns were traded off and this knight left its square, then a rook could easily come and just attack the queen, and that's something you'll have to avoid when you're playing chess. Another tip is or eighth tip for the day is to avoid trading a developed piece for a not developed one. Generally, it's a bad idea to trade a well positioned piece, like right here, which this position comes right out of the London system. It's a bad idea to just trade this bishop off for the knight on b8. You trade one of your developed pieces for one of your opponents that are not developed up. You waste time, and this is very true here. You spend a move getting this piece out. You could get out your knight. You could bring hit to c pawn and prepare something like queen b3 and then knight d2. So you have lots of options. You don't have to take the knight, which is a bad move in this position, and will get the opponent's rook on a good square, and which can also gain lots of space on the queen side. Our ninth tip of the day is one that's repeated very often. It's to castle as quickly as possible. Right now, in this position, again, which comes out of the Art of Sicilian, we can't waste time getting our bishop out. Which, while it's a good move, our king is in the center, and this is a somewhat open position. The king's safety is one of the most important things to care about during an opening and well game, because your king is the most valuable piece on the board. The king in the center will always be vulnerable to the opponent's attacks, especially in the open positions. Castling means placing your king comfortably behind a pawn blockade and allowing development of your rooks. Because these rooks are stuck on the corner of the board, you have to get them out early, and then your rook may rapidly occupy an open or half-open file, and which gives you a great advantage. Let's say black castle kingside in this position. After you castle queenside, we can get this bishop out and bring out our rooks, and our king will be safe from most attacks, which makes castling very beneficial to your position. Our last tip of the day is this tip is very flexible, and it's castling kingside is safer than castling queenside. The reason behind is because, first of all, when you're castling queenside, your king goes on c1 instead of well tucked behind the pawns, which means you have to take an extra tempo to move it to b1, and it just leaves the king exposed, as it is easier to start an attack on the queen side because usually your knights and other pieces, the enemy queen blocks off some of the squares where you push your pawn, while your king doesn't. Which means that when you castle kingside, you do have a safer position. And right now, it's pretty much impossible for black to get any sort of play on the king. And white, you can stay happy with your queenside space. But if you castle queenside, on the other hand, you would have a much worse position, as your position, especially now, is very exposed. And even if there was a pawn on e2 and c2, if this bishop got traded off, let's say we traded it off for the knight, then an idea like bishop h6 would be possible, which pins the queen to the king, winning the queen. Alright everybody, that concludes today's 10 tips to help your game improve video. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, please remember to subscribe to support my channel and help it reach 100 subscribers. I will get the other videos out as soon as possible. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. I will see you all next time.